so have you been able to match these up to create your own similes? Fantastic, well done. Well, let's have a look at them together. So we have as blue as, okay? So the adjective that we're using to compare the two objects is blue. Now, can we say as blue as a giraffe? Well, no, a giraffe isn't blue, is it? Can we say as blue as the sea? Well, yes, we describe the sea as blue, don't we? So therefore, yes, we could have that simile, as blue as the sea. Now, what about the next one? As tall as. We've got thunder and we've got a giraffe. Which one of these are tall? Well, yes, look, a giraffe is very tall, isn't it? So therefore, we can have the simile as tall as a giraffe. Maybe you could use that simile to describe Farmer Bean because he is tall and so is a giraffe. So you could compare them using a simile, using the adjective tall. Now, the last one, as loud as. Well, the only one left is thunder, and we know that thunder is very loud, isn't it? So therefore, we could have the simile as loud as thunder. Maybe somebody has a very loud voice, and we could say their voice is as loud as thunder. So both of those things are loud, and we are comparing them using the simile as loud as. So well done if you're able to match those up to create your own similes. So now I am going to take away the last part of the simile. Okay, so I gave you them to match up last time, but this time you haven't got them, and you've got to come up with your own similes and think of something that is fast, slow, evil, and thin to compare something else to. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one together. Well, the first one is as fast as. Well, what do I know that is fast? Well, let's think of an animal maybe. That's probably the easiest, isn't it? What animal do I know that is fast? I know that a cheetah is fast. So therefore, I could use the simile as fast as a cheetah. Okay, so maybe if somebody runs very fast, we could say they are as fast as a cheetah. Okay, now what about the next one? This is the opposite. We've got as slow as. Now let's stick to animals. What animal do I know that is very slow? Oh, I know that a snail is very slow. So therefore we could use the simile as slow as a snail. Okay, maybe if somebody walks very slowly, we could say they walk as slow as a snail. Okay, and then we have evil and thin. So as evil as and as thin as. Now, I would like you to pause the video and have a think. How could you complete these similes? Okay, yeah, two. So we've got the two similes, as I said, as evil as and as thin as, using the word as in our simile. Now, we could use these similes to describe Farmer Bean, couldn't we? Because Farmer Bean is evil and he is thin. So what could we compare him to? What else is evil? Well, what do I think of when I think of the word evil? Oh, I know. I think of a witch. Okay, as evil as a witch. Did you come up with something similar? Fantastic, well done. I'm sure your simile is brilliant. So we've got as evil as a witch, that's what I came up with, and then as thin as. Well, what do I know that is thin? Oh, I know. I think a piece of string is very thin. So you could compare somebody, if they are thin, to a piece of string and say, for example, Farmer Bean is as thin as a piece of string. So there we go. That's what I came up with, but I'm sure you came up with some brilliant similes as well that you could use in your own work. So now we are going to have a look at Fantastic Mr. Fox, and we're going to be using some similes to describe his appearance. Okay. Now, first of all, in my simile, I need the first thing that I'm comparing, don't I? Remember, in the last ones, I had Sophie is, but what am I going to compare in this one? Something about Mr. Fox's appearance. Oh, I know. I'm going to look at Mr. Fox's fur, okay, because that's part of his appearance. Now, what did I have after Sophie in my simile? What's the next part of the jigsaw to make up a simile? Oh yes, it's is as. We need to use the word as, don't we, to create a simile. So Mr. Fox's fur is as. Now what did I have next? Oh, yes, that's right. I needed an adjective, didn't I? So, what adjective could I use to describe Mr. Fox's fur? Well, Mr. Fox's fur is probably very soft, isn't it? So, therefore, I'm going to use the adjective soft to describe Mr. Fox's fur. Mr. Fox's fur is as soft. Now, I've got my as before my adjective is as soft. But I also need an as after, don't I? Like Sophie is as light as a feather. Mr. Fox's fur is as soft as. Okay, now I need to think of something else that is soft. Well, I know that a teddy bear is soft. I know that a blanket is soft. What else do I know that is soft? Silk, maybe? Oh, I know. What about a feather? Like a feather that's on a bird. They're very soft, aren't they? So therefore, I'm going to say Mr. Fox's fur is as soft as a feather. Okay, so we've created one simile for Mr. Fox's appearance, but I would like to create another one. Now, what else can I see on Mr. Fox's appearance? Oh, I know. Can you see the whiskers on his nose? So I'm going to look at Mr. Fox's whiskers now. Now, in the first one, I had Mr. Fox's fur is as. Okay. But am I going to have Mr. Fox's whiskers is as? Well, no, because there's more than one whisker, isn't there? Mr. Fox doesn't have one whisker, does he? He has lots of whiskers. So therefore, I would say Mr. Fox's whiskers are as. Okay, so instead of is as, which you have for one thing, we're going to use are as because there's more than one whisker that Mr. Fox has. Okay, now I would like to pause the video and think of how you could complete this simile. What are you going to describe Mr. Fox's whiskers as, and what are you going to compare them to? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, yeah, too. So let's have a look at this together. Mr. Fox's whiskers are as. Now, what can I see Mr. Fox's whiskers are? Oh, they're very long, aren't they? So therefore, I'm going to use the adjective long. Mr. Fox's whiskers, I can't get my words out, are as long. And then like the last one, as. Now, what could I describe them? What could I compare them to? Mr. Fox's whiskers are as long. What else do I know that is long? Oh, I know that spaghetti is long. So I could compare Mr. Fox's whiskers, I can't say it again, to spaghetti. So therefore, Mr. Fox's whiskers are as long as spaghetti. There is my simile to describe Mr. Fox's whiskers. Okay, so now I've described Mr. Fox. Can you guess who you're going to describe using similes? Well, yes, well done. Again, you are going to describe Farmer Bean. Now, there are two options here of worksheets. You have resource 2, which is slightly easier because I've started the simile off for you, okay? So I've told you, for example, Farmer Bean's ears, okay, and you have to complete it. But then resource 3, you have to, so in the first resource, resource 2, you have like Farmer Bean's ears are as, and I've given you the adjective, and you need to think of what you can compare it to. And then in resource 3, I give you the first thing. So for example, Farmer Bean's ears, but you need to complete the rest of the simile off. So in resource 3, I don't give you the adjective like I do on resource 2. So you decide which you want to use. And you then, once you've done his appearance, need to come up with some for his personality. So, for example, Farmer Bean is as. Okay, what aspects of his personality can you describe using a simile? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I am really looking forward to seeing all of the similes that you have come up with for Farmer Bean. And I will see you in our next English lesson. Bye, Yeti.